This is the basics of digital painting. I'm Pete Moorbacher. The way we do this is every week I give out an assignment and then I review all the homework from the previous week's assignment. If you see your stuff come up on screen, you're welcome to raise your hand. You can come up on stage with me and chit chat about your work. If you can't or don't want to, that's cool too. I'll still try to give a nice crit for the pieces I've selected. Obviously, I can't select every single one that gets submitted because we're going to try to keep this thing to an hour. But I appreciate everyone who does the homework. It's always an honor to see everybody spend so much of their precious time working on art, trying to get better, playing along with me on this whole thing. So I'm trying to switch up the rhythm of this thing just a little bit. We're going to give out the assignment here right at the beginning, and then I'm going to remind everybody at the end because, viewership, people are going to catch the beginning of the VOD, then they don't have to wait through an hour or skip ahead to try to find the assignment. And then also, there's more people usually at the end of this thing that are live, so I'll give a reminder then. I just uploaded it to the homework channel. Here is the reference image for this week's assignment. The assignment is I want you to draw some happy little trees based off of this reference. Let me just bring it up on screen so the VOD can see what we're talking about. So I have a little bit of a rant that I do periodically where I tell people, if you want to make your landscapes look interesting, if you want to have them feel energetic, you need to imagine them in motion. You need to imagine rocks as sort of plowing their way through the ground, and you need to imagine your trees as not sitting there inert, standing, blowing in the wind, but as explosions of greenery. And so I had the idea of why not just give a reference of an actual explosion, and then we try to use that as reference for trees to drill home this idea that when we're drawing an environment, we're drawing something that has energy to it, that has motion to it, that has life to it. And so this is the Happy Little Trees assignment where I'm giving you a fiery explosion, and I want you to make it greenery. I want it to still have this sense of scale and energy that's inside this explosion, but I want you to make it entirely out of green foliage. You can, take it's open to interpretation to a degree, but try to stick as close as you can to the structure inside of this thing and really think about how you can make this feel like it's has that sense of motion and energy to it. Anyone not seeing the screen share? Yeah, sorry. I was trying to get everything booted up before I hit this thing, and of course, I didn't hit the share screen button. There you go. Sorry about that. Good thing this week it did not crash us. That's good. All right. So with that all out of the way, let's get on to the crits. Paper's the first one up. Is Paper here? Paper's here.
Hello.
Hey, Paper, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. How about you?
Great. I always love doing this class, so I always get in a good mood
Cool.
as soon as this thing kicks off. So part of the reason I picked yours was I have another patented rant that I want to go on a little bit, and your comment was a perfect transition into this. You were saying, every time I attempt a line drawing, I am reminded of why I love painting so much. So part of the reason I gave this assignment this week is that I have a string of students that I've had mentor with me, and I was kind of convinced that I kept pushing people away from painting because I have had a lot of students that came to me with the express purpose of learning painting, and throughout the process of working with them, I was just pushing them to do line art instead because I felt like line art was what was natural for them, and they kept trying to convince themselves they needed to do painting, but they were so naturally attuned to line art. I was trying to help them be themselves, push them towards the things that were easy and natural for them, so that people who just are better, if painting comes more naturally to you, I think that you should paint. And if line art comes more naturally to you, you should focus on that. And it really breaks down different people's preferences break down differently. And I was actually really encouraged looking at all the comments this week, yours being one of the most pointed about it, that a lot of people were like, oh my God, I wish I could just paint this.
Yeah. That was very much my thoughts on when I was making this. I was like, this would be so much easier if I could just paint this, but I
Yeah.
gotta do the little lines.
I mean, that's the reason I paint everything is because it is so. I have a terrible time with line art. I was actually a little nervous
Yeah.
coming into this because I realized I was about to crit a bunch of people on line art, and I stink at line art, and it's so unnatural for me. But I felt like I had to give it a shot to see who in the room was of the mind that they were possibly better at line art or more naturally attuned to line art than painting, so that I
Right.
could, help push them in that direction, like a lot of my past students. But I'm encouraged to hear that you are more interested in painting.
Yes, absolutely. Full time. Every time I'm talking to like some of my other art buddies, they're always like, "Oh, you should try doing a line thing." I'm like, "No." Every time I do it, I'm just like, I have a miserable time with it, and I'm much better at painting, so I'm just gonna stick to that.
Yeah, no, that's exactly the right
Yeah.
attitude. Don't give in to the peer pressure.
Yeah, no.
I'm glad I'm not, out here peer pressuring you to do line art too. I don't know why it is that
absolutely
so
not.
many of the people that have sought out my mentorship have been like natural line artists. I don't get it, but
Yeah, I don't know.
whatever.
Maybe,
so what do you
like,
find so
industry
challenging
standard.
about the line art thing?
I mean, it's really just like keeping it. I mean, this I just kind of switched from doing like line art to more of like a sketchy like line drawing at first.
Sure.
But the times when I do like very like crisp line art that you see like I don't know artists on Instagram do with all the line weight and all that like
Say digital
I have-
inking.
yeah, digital inking. Like, I have such a hard time with getting like line weights right. It just ends up looking like I don't know. It just looks like too digital for me. Like for when I look at other people's work when they do it, they like pull it off because they've been doing it a lot longer. But when I do it, I'm like, it just feels so stiff, and I'm like, I'd rather just paint and render this.
Yeah. Well,
It's just hard.
I've
Yeah.
also found that there is a little bit of a distinction between people who are sort of naturally inclined to want to ink things, and inking
Mm-hmm.
being a relative term. We're still talking about digital art here,
Yeah.
and then people who are better at drawing, who are more natural with like a digital pencil.
Right.
And I think we've got some of those coming up, some more digital pencil looking pieces. And
yes.
I just, it's like, I don't see digital pencil as being less complete and digital ink as being more complete. I think it sounds like you're sort of feeling like this is a little bit more on the side of like a sketchy drawing,
Yeah.
digital pencil style.
Mhm.
I think that's totally valid. There's some really amazing world-class famous artists that's sort of their thing is doing digital pencil. And
yeah.
I think it looks gorgeous. I don't think it needs to be refined further down. I think seeing the hand of the artist in the work is always a fair choice. So,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah.
Yeah,
If-
there's some killer stuff.
If you're going to do digital, if you're going to do like something that's more line art digitally and you feel like it stiffens up too much when you're doing ink and it's not adding value to the piece, hey, I'd say keep going with the digital drawing. I think that there's a lot of life in some of these areas. I just want to call out the areas where I think you're doing the things are more successful versus less successful. Like I think around the face of this bird, I think where there's a lot of liveliness to the line here. We're seeing some natural line variation. We're seeing a lot of energy in this, like around the eye especially. We're seeing some areas where the edge is kind of breaking up versus where it's getting tighter, more solid. Some of
Yeah.
these lines feel very like very confident, and I think it looks really good. And then once we start getting into the fish, I feel like some of that, like you can see like around this edge here, where stuff starts like there's not as much of a rhythm to it. The lines feel a lot less confident. It feels
Yeah.
like your pencil's moving slower, and you're kind of inching through it, and that wobble comes in when you start slowing down and
Oh, yeah.
the line starts dragging a little bit. And you get these uneven spaces between some of these scales here. It gets kind of lumpy and weird looking.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's one thing. Whenever there's like lots of like line work involved and things that are like heavily detailed, like scales, I'm just like I just dread it. I'm like, ugh. Like rendering out like each like individual scales in a painting, like I have a happy time doing it because I don't like sketch out every scale. I like sculpt it out using like with like lighting, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm a lot more attuned to doing that than like, for me, like just drawing each one out is like tedious work. But like, doing that in the painting format, I'm like, oh, this is relaxing. So
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting.
I wonder if some of the difference in confidence we're getting between line weights in these different parts of the drawing here come from the relative size of the details. I wonder if maybe what you need is to just zoom way in so you can just get more action on your brushstroke. Because some of your larger marks here have a lot of confidence to them. There's a lot of flow. And then with these smaller ones, I wonder if it's maybe just a little bit of imprecision. Are you working with a iPad?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just get in there. Like if I can definitely see how this is you zoomed out and then kind of trying to find the mark with like that stylus tip and nothing's quite lining up exactly. If you could just blow it up so it's filling the whole screen and just go in there and try to make big marks with the same size brush so it gets a nice big thick mark and you're getting a lot of control over it and you're getting a lot of hand movement. I think that's probably going to give a lot more life. And so choosing what zoom level you're working at so that you could make sure to get that liveliness to your stroke and that confidence to your marks at every part of it, I think is going to be a big key if you wanted to do more like this. Yeah,
it's a good idea because I hear like a lot of things online where artists are like, oh, work zoomed out because you see everything, like you hear that all the time.
Sometimes you should work zoomed out.
Yeah, I feel like there's like a place for it, but yeah, it makes sense to like zoom in for those details for sure.
All right, any questions for me? That's my main thoughts on this.
Not really. I mean, I had a lot of trouble with like the little all the little hairs at the bottom there.
Everyone kept saying that.
Felt yeah, it was like so messy. I don't know. Like, do you have any tips on like if there's an area with just an insane amount of detail like that for?
No,
I guess
like my solution to that is to just thug it out. Like I will.
Yeah. Okay.
If I'm really if this was something where somebody's like, I'll pay you $1 million if you do a really good line art of this, I would get in there and I would plan out every thread. I would plan out every like loose feather, and go over it like probably with a loose drawing, and then on a new layer come in and just try 20 times for each stroke just to make sure I got the right curve and the right energy to it. And just undo, stroke, undo, stroke, undo, stroke. Whenever I've seen cartoonists work digitally, I see this like repetition to them just trying to find the exact right mark and repeating it over and over again until they like find it exactly right. And when I've had to do something like whenever I'm trying to make a mark like that where it's like a single hair or something and I can only make it cleanly with a single stroke, I'll do that process of making the stroke, undo, make it, undo. And if it means doing that 100 times to be able to get all that, that's probably what I would do if I was trying to make it super clean.
Yeah.
It's something that I think, if you're doing digital painting, you don't need to do that because just like make it loose, it's wrong, and then you go back and you carve out an edge precisely
exactly.
Later. And like for me, that's one of the joys of painting is being able to like go back and like mush something out and then carve the edge again, and like you don't need to nail it in a single mark the same way you need to do with line art.
Yeah, that's exactly why I love painting so much, is because it's like I can kind of go back and fix it. No matter how kind of messed up it is, I can always like find some way around it, or at least backtrack. But with like line work, I feel like it's so like you have to get it right or you're screwed.
Yeah, and like
and I don't. Like
I mean, we're gonna look at another one later where somebody had their process recorded, and I think that what's key for a lot of artists that I know that do line art is they don't ever take it in one. It's always like a loose sketch that gets faded back, and then a tighter sketch, And then in some cases, it'll be 3 layers of drawing before they finally get to the final inked work. So I think that's a really different approach than what you see out of digital painting, because the layering, it all kind of happen. You never end up like knocking back the whole painting and then going at it again fresh. You just always keep building up more and more paint, and that's comfortable. But with line art, you're right. Like you can see every single mark so much more clearly. But it doesn't mean that you need to get it in one. It just means that like you need to eventually get it in one.
Yeah, I see. Well, cool.
I do feel a little bit like I'm talking out of my ass. So anybody who's listening to this, please take this with a grain of salt. I'm basing this off of stuff that I've seen more than stuff that I've done. So thanks, Paper. We're gonna move on and take a look at other people's stuff. Yeah, great seeing your work as always. All right, we got a lot of familiar faces here, except for Dr. Sensible. Dr. Sensible, are you in the audience today? Yeah, you're here. You got a mic? You want to raise your hand and come on stage?
Hello.
Hello. I've got your time lapse up here.
Yeah, and apologies if it's a little bit loud. I'm at a gaming conference right now. I just stepped aside to take this class.
Oh, awesome. Hey, what gaming conference?
I'm at XP Summit in Toronto.
Oh, cool.
My school, we had a booth here showing off our game, and so I've just been taking advantage of the free ticket to go listen to a bunch of really cool keynotes and meet some people. So it's been very fun.
Great. Well, I hope you have a productive trip. I always love going to cons like that.
Yeah, it's very fun, and this was really fun for me too. This is my first time doing something for your class.
Well, it's great to have you, and the time lapse here, I really appreciate it, because we were just talking about taking multiple passes to find that line, and I thought that this introductory part was a really good example where you started off really loose and painterly with it, and then faded it back and went in for a more precise drawing. I think that's got to be the way to attack the problem of like, how do you find the context of where all these marks are going to be?
Yeah, for sure.
Can you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, totally. So I think that for anybody that has experience with traditional medium, it's actually really similar to doing something like, I feel like so many people, myself included, start off with like comic books as a pretty big inspiration. And if you watch some of the great comic book artists, like pencilers and inkers, they do the same kind of thing where they put down their rough idea and they're constantly erasing and erasing and erasing until they get to something that feels like it works. Here we can use some tools that you don't have in traditional medium. Like you'll see me jump into Liquify briefly from time to time to push and pull things where I want them to be. But I feel like it's so easy. I fall victim to this too, to just zoom all the way in right away and try to make everything perfect, and then you zoom out and you've got this monstrosity.
I noticed that for your flats also, you are you using the pencil tool?
Yes, because I wanted to get them to a point where I could easily select them and do hue adjustments and stuff later.
Yeah.
So non-rasterized makes it a lot easier. And then at the end, if I was to go to another stage of polish, I would then go in and do something with a soft brush on the edges to clean it up. But for this, trying not to spend my whole life on this, I just kind of left it in that non-rasterized state.
I've known some comic book colorists before, and they all work like with the pencil tool for flatting and stuff, and even a lot of like digital comic book line art ends up getting completely rasterized, like.
Yep.
And so, yeah, you're saying, oh, yeah, we're all inspired by comic books. I personally have like no comic book DNA whatsoever. I've just known other people that worked in it. But now that you mention it, I noticed that pencil thing. It is I think that in comic books is one of the main places where that gets done, because most digital art, you have that bit of softness to the edge, even with a hard brush.
Yes.
That anti-aliasing, and to go totally un-anti-aliased and go with a completely hard pixel like pencil tool is something that I think comes out of like digital tradition inside the comic book workflow. But
Yeah, and I think it has a really good place for character design. If you're not totally locked into what colors your characters are going to be, it becomes so much easier to get adjustments to your different values and your flats essentially on those when you can just select it with your wand or whatever else you're using and not need to worry about all those weird artifacts of a soft edge.
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a few different areas of making those sort of pre-selectable zones. I had a teacher in college that would do it all in channels, would save them all out as channels so that he could get.
Okay, okay.
If you save them as channels, then you can go in and let me open up the channels tab here. Channels is a weird thing. I mean, by default you just have RGB, but you can add new alpha channels, and then when you
Yes.
go and create even with an anti-aliased mark like this that you can see has a little bit of softness to it. If you control click there, you will actually get all that anti-aliasing as part of the selection. So that as you repeat through that over and over again, you don't necessarily get the kind of weird haloing that you get when you
Okay,
try to
okay.
like Magic One select stuff. But you're right. For one of the key ways of preventing any kind of weird haloing that you get out of a flat is just using. I mean, even with like a lasso tool, I think you get some anti-aliasing on it. So one of the best
Yeah.
ways to create that is to simply what you were doing was filling out the whole exterior of the line, exterior of the shape with a pencil tool, which has no anti-aliasing, and then you can paint bucket fill in the middle of it, and you will get a perfectly
Exactly.
non-anti-aliased edge, which is not a or you can magic wand and fill it, and you're not going to get haloing in it because it's got a perfect pixel edge to it. And
And you can do the same thing with the lasso as well. You just have to turn off anti-aliasing on the tool itself.
oh yeah, it's a good point. Good point. Yeah.
Yeah, I just prefer the pencil because it feels a little bit more like I'm painting it. I find I'm not as good with the lasso tool. I know some people like shape carve and stuff with it, and like they're really good with it. But I don't know. I'm a little more old school than that.
I always found for me it was easier to go in and like lasso in, and what I'd do is I'd make loops like this.
And then add to it with a shift.
Yeah, and then add to it with the shift key. Though I'm fucking it up right now because I've got I have my lasso set to like the pen button. So when I like
Right.
there it is. So if I'm holding shift and then I hit the pen button, it changes the tool. I need to remap my hotkeys. My hotkeys got redone like a minute ago. But yeah, so if you hit the pen button, if you hit the lasso button first, you can just keep making loops like this
Yes.
and
Yes.
and just build on it to build out the whole thing. And so that's the way I typically feel comfortable doing it. And then also like some of the tools like the magnetic lasso got a lot better after I'm in CS6 where a lot of the stuff is not so great, but in the current versions of CC, some of like the like magnetic lasso, like the sort of procedural selection tools got a little bit better.
A lot smarter.
Yeah. So a lot of ways to approach the building the flats thing. I wonder how much that's going to come up today because I didn't really ever tell anybody like what to do as far as that was concerned, but it sounds like you're pretty familiar with the process of flatting. So
Yeah, and I will say that I tried to, and I wrote this in my post. I tried to like take your kind of prompts to heart and like just stick to hard lines, flats. Whereas I would there were definitely some parts of this like in the lower part of the body on the the top of the beak where I would more like I would rather render that out, right? Like it's much softer lines. There's some stuff that's a little hard to define, but I tried to stick to that.
I think that with you're doing this in very much in like a digital inking style. I think that when you have this very inked look, some amount of gradient ends up adding a lot to really build volume for the
Yes.
figure. While some of if doing a more digital like sketching style, digital pencil style, ends up getting some of that volume from the line itself because the line ends up being able to have more character. And then just purely flat colors underneath sometimes look really good. And so I guess when I was assigning this, I was imagining that because a lot of the people I know that are like really adept at line art, they do like a digital sketching style, and then they just need to lay in some quick flat colors underneath, and they're all good. And so I was just kind of imagining that, but seeing the a little bit of the cell shading along with the ink, I think is a good choice.
Thank you, thank you. It was definitely a challenge, a little outside of my comfort zone, but it was a fun thing to try.
Great. Any questions for me?
Um, Not about this. I think I'm looking forward to keep coming to your class whenever I can make it, and learn on what I'm seeing is like very different types of studies. I personally am working on a project that's like very close to the Angelarium side of things, so my questions would be more about that type of thing than
Show
this.
up on the
So,
show up on Mondays. Monday we have open office hours where I just take open Q&A, and we are desperate for content. So please come by and just ask whatever questions you want.
okay, that's great to know. Thanks.
But yeah, every week I try to keep things really varied as far as the studies go. It's nothing like ever led to me developing Angelarium, but it should be interesting, instructive stuff to try out lots of different approaches and styles. I try to come up with a little twist for the study each week.
Yeah, for sure. And again, like I think for myself and for people at various stages of their art journey, like I basically am coming back to art after having not touched it for over a decade. So
Sure.
I'm just trying to get my chops back, and pushing and trying different stuff and just getting those reps in, getting that time in. I really took what you said in last classes, in last week's class to heart about, just take the time you need to get this feeling to a point where you're somewhat happy with it, right? Like, I know for sure that lower third, you can see how lazy I got with its with its belly.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, I don't have the time to complete this in a week the way I might want to, but
the
got
work you did
the
put in
parts I
counted.
wanted to.
And like continuing to show up and just get things to finish, even if it's not at 100% where you want it, is always counts. So good on you for making it happen.
Well, thanks for doing this. I think it's really cool. It's really cool.
All right, thanks. I'll see you around.
Thanks, Pete.
All right, next up we got Dark. Hey, Dark.
Hello.
How's it going?
Pretty good.
So you say you're not much of a line artist, but
Oh, no.
but Andrea's been helping you out.
Yeah. We did a few hatching assignments a
Oh,
couple
cool.
weeks ago, so that really helped.
I have like no idea what's going on in Andrea's class. It's like I feel like I always have something happening at the exact moment when she runs the class, and so I've like missed nearly every one of them. It's great to hear that you're getting that you're having a great experience with her.
Hmm.
So what was your experience like with the assignment this week?
Basically, I tried to take to heart the stuff that Andrea taught. So like line thickness and direction,
Mm-hmm.
like keeping with the form of the body, and um, I guess I realized that my line arting style is kind of, in a sense, like painting, where instead of, drawing one line and then erasing or like undoing to find the perfect line, I kind of just end up sculpting the lines, which maybe isn't a good habit, but that's how I go about it.
Well, I mean, you're definitely not doing like you're not doing this in a very inker like way. You're building it up more like with pencil.
Yeah.
And I think that's totally valid. As I was saying earlier, I think that building up a lot of overlapping lines, progressively building up the darkness of your lines through repetition, and like that's similar to working in pencil, and I think it's a beautiful look, and I think it's a totally valid thing to do. I don't necessarily believe it needs a layer of cleanup. When you create a nice stiff edge using the flats along with that kind of built up sketchy digital pencil, I think it ends up looking really good because you end up with a very definitive outline at the end, even if you are kind of progressively building things up with digital pencil. So a lot of people were saying they struggled really badly with this area underneath the belly. What was your experience like building up all these really long feathers?
Yeah, it was pretty difficult. I kind of just winged it, if I am being honest.
You're just like, whatever, it's all going to look fine as long as the texture of it's right?
Sort of, yeah.
I bet
The texture and the direction, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like there's so much about the personality of the face that if you were to divert from the reference on it really dramatically, I'm going to bring that up right now because I don't even think I showed it so far. The personality on the face, the proportions of the face of the bird, really need to be locked in. They really need to represent all of the places where the shape of the beak, the shape of the eye, the overall curve of the neck needs to be right. But then once we get down to these feathers, it's like I don't think that our brain is even necessarily registering them as individual feathers until we need to draw and reproduce it. So much of it is about them as a group and them as a general flow and an energy. And so I think approaching it from that respect is totally fair. Though there is one thing I'm noticing now in the reference as I'm looking at it that I don't see a lot of in the studies. I'm seeing this as almost two layers, right? Mm-hmm. There's this frill. There's a frill that kind of this sort of semi-transparent frill that comes through here, and then there is the body underneath it, and the two kind of cross over. I wonder if it would actually add to this to build in the areas where all of these larger feathers are kind of running parallel to each other, making that outer frill. Because it's kind of got this. It's all coming off the neck, right? It's kind of like those, like a cravat, or those things that rich people in olden days would wear around their neck. They have those poofy things they wear around their neck. Birds kind of have that going on here, and to really can make a little bit more of a construction of that line by running some of the, and then there's I think actually a little bit less of these feathers back here because. There in the original reference, I think we can see this. This separation I'm talking about here. There's some looser feathers also, but there's a lot of them that run kind of parallel to each other here, that form kind of a flute shape coming off the neck, and then underneath we have these other ones that are larger and softer and scruffier that kind of all blend together. And seeing a little bit of a textural separation between those layers might add a little bit more nuance to this if you're looking for something like that.
Yeah. I think one of the other things that I had problem with was the coloring. I was not sure if you wanted it to be completely flat, just the base colors. So I kind of avoided separating it with color.
Yeah. The colors there wasn't really a wrong approach to it. I just wanted this to be about line art and not about rendering. So I wanted to avoid where people went and did a fully inked piece and then did painted color underneath, where it was tons of rendering underneath. And so the focus on flat color was really trying to get away from what is typically our focus in this class, which is just lots and lots of painting. I wanted a zero painting day.
Yeah, I see how I could have done some stuff differently with especially the softer feathers.
I'm just trying to be. I'm trying to add a little bit of context to what I'm seeing here, just because I know you are you are always nitpicking yourself and looking for ways to improve, and so I'm trying to add value here by nitpicking it. I think you did an amazing job. I really like the sketchy style. I think you seem like you have a little bit of a naturally easy time with just digital drawing like this, and I think that you could probably even take some of the texture that you're building in here with these hatch marks and continue even further with this. There's because you're strong at drawing, I think you can continue to, I think you could really emphasize that drawing and need to paint less if you wanted to like work out a design for a figure. Do it. I think you could probably get a lot of it done at this stage. And I know like a lot of people who are really into digital painting just don't feel like a thing is good unless it's painted. And so there's a lot of like skipping steps to get to the painting and like big focus on rendering, big focus on materials. But when it comes to concept art, but also a lot in illustration, like there is so much that can be done during the painting phase. I've got some friends that's sort of like where their whole career lives is just in the drawing part. And then the painting is just there as a supporting element. It's probably worth playing around with as like an alternate style that you have in your back pocket, but also in cases where you just need to really focus on the drawing, like don't feel like you need to erase it all and paint over it because the world begins and ends with painting.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely seeing that a lot more lately. The benefits of lining and taking the time in the sketch to really define everything.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a lot more use for that.
Great. Any questions?
Oh, I don't know. I think you answered just about everything.
Okay, great. Well, I mean, your work's always excellent, and it's always a joy to see it. So thanks so much for participating again.
Thanks a lot for the feedback.
Great.
Take care.
You too. We got Cathew. After being gone for 5 weeks, I want to come back with a bang. Cathew, hello.
Hello.
How's it going?
I'm gonna be good. I'm gonna be muting a lot when I'm not speaking because my younger siblings like practicing the drum kit in the back. So
Well, I don't hear any drums at the moment. So you said you did have one issue. Had so much trouble with the fish. I see that so many people are drawing it with its belly up. You know, I think you're right. I think it is this. We're looking at the side of it here. This is the top side. This is the dorsal fin up at the top that's curving over. But you're saying you had trouble with the fish, so I thought I could go through a little bit and give my thoughts on the fish. But I first wanted to hear about your feelings on how the work went.
yeah, I like how the fish turned out in the end. I was really confused by it, so I just spent rather than like having it be like, oh, spend the amount of time as I did with everything else. I just like fully spent like probably like 3-4 hours just on that fish, just to try and be like, let me just try and like bash my head into trying to figure this out. But I saw like a lot of people drawing it like the tummy was up for like that back tail, but like from what I saw, I think this was just like my visual interpretation of it. Like for me, it was like the side of the fish.
Yeah, it's the
and maybe
top
for
of the
like
fish.
a little bit, like
I think this is
Yeah,
the top
okay.
of it, and that's the dorsal fin. These are the little side arm fins or whatever they're called. Yeah.
oh, okay. So I did get it right. It just like okay.
I don't know. I didn't see. I
Rearranging
looked
with
back
my
through it
brain.
after reading your comment, and I was like, I think everyone was drawing the fish from the same angle.
Okay. I guess like I was just really confused by everything.
It's okay.
But
So I was thinking about the fish, and what I see in it is like you have a lot of hatching to try to build up the structure of this guy, and you're working a lot on the value. But I think that if we're thinking about this from a line art perspective, the fish has a lot of opportunities to build up its structure in line rather than in value. And one of the, because it's got these really like defined scale ridges in it, you have a few of those suggested with these little scribbly marks. But I think that if you wanted to refine this further, my recommendation would be to select it and then push it I can do it this way. Push it back a little bit. I've got the pencil tool here. There we go. We're just gonna push it back a little bit, especially through this like body area here. This is where I really wanted to focus on. Because we don't want to lose the context. When you do a pass over an area, you get a lot of context for future work. That's like the reason why we tend to build up stuff progressively rather than just laying down one line and then committing to it, is that every line that we add gives us a little bit more context to where the other lines are going to fit. Okay. And so one of the things that we have going for it here is I don't have a really good drawing tool here in Photoshop, but we've got all these ridges that are running up the length of the guy here, right? And so I think focusing on pulling those out is going to give you a lot of really good volume for this, more so than what you're getting out of building up all the shading. And so I would, on a layer just as construction lines, try to find where the line of all those ridges are, rather than try to space them out one at a time. Build some construction marks that find where all those lines running up and down the side of the guy here.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I was like trying to figure out like how on earth I map it out, but I just completely blanked on that.
Yeah, so I would lay in some construction marks that and you can do this you can have them on a separate layer, and you see I've got it on a layer here, and I'm just going to knock them back again. But this gives me the context to be able to know like whether or not I'm spacing them out more or less correct. And then from there, you can go and find them and try to just focus on making sure that their shape is that if we just wanted to have the focus on those shadowed bits at the bottom where they're all kind of triangular, focus on the spacing of them, and then we can use that guideline to just make sure that they're staying kind of consistent with each other. And I'm doing kind of a bad job on it here. I'm just gonna redo it. But just try to it doesn't need to be an incredibly long process to find where these are going to be. You can just try to focus on the spacing of them and making sure that the shape of them are consistent. Oh, and I've got it on the wrong layer because I was backing out. No wonder they're coming in so transparent. I thought that was my brush. And I'm not going to count out how many are exactly right. I think I've got mine spaced a little bit too far. But I'm just trying to focus on them as a rhythm. If they're going to get progressively closer together and smaller as we get from the head to the tail. I'm looking backwards across the line as I'm making each mark to make sure that I'm trying to get that rhythm correctly so that the spacing gets slowly closer together and slowly smaller as we go across the whole length of it. And then going back up to the top again. And then comparing them one to one. It's more important that they match internally than they match to the reference. So that way we can use our guidelines here, use our construction lines, and compare it to all the work that we've done before and build up a pattern bit by bit that's internally consistent. And you can see that even though it takes a little bit of prep, it doesn't actually take that much time to lay in these marks manually one at a time. Instead of getting loose and sketchy about it, you can get really, really precise about it, and it will go just fine. It'll go quickly. If you can make sure that you are prepping for all this stuff and planning it very carefully, you can see that the scales beyond these ridges, the scales, they come off triangularly from these points here. And so you can lay this stuff all in really precise, especially if you get in close. Are you using a iPad or are you working on PC?
I have a tablet, so PC.
Yeah, I'm working on an Intuos tablet, just a pen tablet without a screen on it. This kind of stuff is where working on like a screen tablet actually can add a lot of value, because doing this precisely off of a pen tablet can be kind of tricky, but it's still totally possible. And
Yeah, I have a screen tablet.
oh, you got a
Sorry.
screen tablet, so you're better equipped to do this than I am right now, even. But I think that taking everything really, really carefully, one mark at a time, even if you ended up doing this and then deciding that you don't like the scale of it, you don't like, I mean, no pun intended, but if you don't like the pattern of it and you don't feel like it's coming together, wipe it out, start over. But making sure that you have like the base structure of it in a place that you like, that you lay out these guidelines to give you a sense of where all these ridges are lined up, that just running through it really loose and sketchy first, just to give you a greater sense of context to where all your marks are going. Now you can go in and start to work a little bit more cleanly on top of that on a separate layer. And even if it feels like you are doing like laying this thing one brick at a time, it goes quickly. If you stay organized, it's going to go fast. It's like laying in hundreds of little pencil marks like this is just not that time consuming. They only take a couple of seconds each. So a few minutes, you can bust out every single scale in this fish, define the edge of every single one of it, and just be super precise about the whole thing. And I think you're going to blow through it faster than you think. I think it would go faster than like, sketching back and forth, building up the value the way that you did.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, good. Any other questions for me?
Yeah, just a quick thing.
Mhm.
What is like the difference between like the digital pencil and the digital pen that you were talking about? Like, and what would you consider this on that spectrum?
This is very much so. When I'm talking about digital pencil versus digital inking, it's not about tools as much as it is like philosophy, like the type of mark making you're trying to make. Digital pencil is much more like what you're doing here, which could be like it looks kind of like a ballpoint pen in this case, because it's a very dark mark, but working in sort of a semi-opaque line and just building up like sketching, hatching, having a line that like darkens as you go back over it and building it up progressively the way that you would with a ballpoint pen or with a pencil, versus working with something that works more like a crow quill ink, where you are making a fully opaque mark and you're not building up any kind of opacity at all. And you can see how wobbly my lines are. I am the world's worst inker. But when it's like the difference between somebody who's doing like comic book pencils versus comic book inks. I think that both the mediums look very good in some types of media, like in comics. Like they want to have ink with color washes. Like that's like tradition, but I personally also love the look of comics that are done entirely in pencil. Even also, those also look really gorgeous with color washes over them. And I think that some people, they naturally gravitate towards something that feels a little bit more like pencil versus something that's more like pen. I also think that working with a brush, I work with a brush that has like size flow on it, so it gets these little tails where as the pressure is coming down, it like narrows. Well, I think with digital pencil, you end up with something that's a little bit more like pressure sensitive, like this. So still working with a small line, but instead of getting those little tails at the end, you get like a flat end with a little bit of a fade on it. I think that tends to make it look a little bit more like pencil as well. So
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
maybe it does come down to the tool to a degree, but I also just see like some people, they really love inking. And then most people, I mean, I think a lot of us got into drawing through pencil. And so carrying it over into digital, like I think that some of the same preference and philosophy comes through. And it really is just a matter of personal taste, more than like one is finished and one's like unfinished.
And secondary question that you probably don't have an answer for is, do you know like reason like why like I avoid like the smoother lining is because like I have Tourette's, so my hands are really shaky.
Mm.
And I don't think that like Photoshop has like a pressure, like not a pressure stabilizer, but like a pen stabilizer. And do you know if it does? Because I may like try giving it a shot.
There is something called Lazy Izumi? Lazy Nezumi. Lazy Nezumi is a line stabilizer tool that works. It's compatible with Photoshop. That is something I've heard people recommend over and over again. Position smoothing. I'm going to link it in the chat here. I have not used it personally. I've just heard it recommended a million times. I believe it is the industry standard for doing the thing that you're asking for. So very happy to answer that question. Krita has it, apparently, the line smoothing. It should work with CSP and other apps as well. Lazy Nezumi does. But I think that some of the other more modern painting programs actually are building in. Oh, Photoshop has it? I guess the newer versions of Photoshop have it.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's definitely something I'll try, but we'll see if I actually like look into it more or not. But yeah, thank you so much.
It's the sort of thing that'd be good if you wanted to do something like inking. I think that a motion smoothing thing would probably be helpful for you. But
yeah,
only if you want to do inking though. Great job.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Thank you. All right, fine. Last up, we got Delia. Delia, you here? Yeah, Delia's here. Near the mic. There you go.
Oh, hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
What was your experience like with the assignment this week?
It was fine. It seemed relatively easy. I say
Easy,
delicately. Yeah, I think I was just trying to not get myself to over render, since the point of this was the line art.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind doing line art, particularly since Clip Studio makes it line art a lot easier, in my opinion, than using Photoshop. So I find line art digitally, at least, to be a little bit more peaceful.
I mean, yeah, you're better
yeah.
with flats and with drawing and with line. I mean, when I was saying, I've had so many students that I've just yelled at, be like, stop painting, just focus on your drawing. You're so good at drawing, just don't bother with the painting stuff. You're on that list, so
Yeah.
I wanted to bring you up today to talk about that a little bit, like, because I felt like this would be an easy one for you. I felt like this was a layup for you this week.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. I was even considering doing an extra homework assignment for myself and like making it really simplified and chibi, but I didn't. But I think I just need to remind myself to just keep it simple, stupid each time I do stuff, I guess.
But I feel like you could have doubled down on the fish a little bit. I feel like the fish, the fish in this photo is so crisp, and there's so much contrast, especially like through the fin here. And I know that the head of the fish is in shadow, but it felt like you shortchanged us a little bit on your fishes.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I was trying not to go overboard, but yeah.
I like the look and the approach to it overall. I think you always do a great job with your drawing and flats, and like doing the lines in different colors. I think is a great look. The way that you have these gaps in the lines on the head to create the uneven pattern across the space right at the base of the beak here, I think is a really cool look. It's good approach to that. I really am missing the detail on the fish.
Yeah.
All the highlights and stuff on here. It feels like this is a rough layout for a fish that I know you could knock out of the park if you gave it some more time.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh well. Yeah. Okay. So I don't have a ton more insight into it. I just wanted to complain at you a little bit about how I thought you could have gone into it deeper, but that's fine.
Yeah. And I also use Lazy Nezumi, so I do recommend people giving it a shot. It's a one-time purchase, but there's a free trial, so I think it just helps with stabilizing lines.
Mm-hmm.
So there's my little vouch for that. And it's again, it's a one-time purchase, so you don't have to deal with any stupid subscriptions.
Any software that's a one-time purchase, I have an easy time recommending, even if it's like fairly expensive.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah. Use code Delia. Thanks, Dustin.
since we no longer live in a world of perpetual licenses, anything that is any software dev that's brave enough to actually do a perpetual license, I have a much easier time recommending their stuff. So it's great to
Yeah.
hear that you're getting the use out of it. I personally would need something like that to work like this, because part of the reason I don't work with lines is that it like a combination of the tools that I'm using, having like I have a 6x9 tablet, which means that any wobble in my pen is magnified in size as it gets blown up to full size. I like my lines are so wobbly, and so trying to like get a crisp line and trying to like work in solids like this, I just feel like it reveals everything bad about my mark making. So
Oh.
using something like Lazy Nizumi might actually like really help with that if I were to get into it.
Yeah.
Cool to
And
know
if
what's out
people
there.
do use it, turn like the applications like smoothing down to 0, because if you combine that with Lazy Nizumi, it can be funky.
Yeah,
Well, hot tip.
It
But-
forms a fascist, it forms a fascist government. It's really not good.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyways, that's all about my little speech on that.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have anything speech on your thing either, so I'm gonna move on. Thanks so
Okay.
much.
Cool. Thank you.
I actually do have one more here. I've got Sean. You got hidden in the window here. I just hit the button to pull you up, and now are we getting some Discord shenanigans here? Because let's see, can I? It wasn't me. Oh, there we go.
Hello?
And now we're set.
Sorry, I think it was my fault. I had it open in another window. It's coming up in the other window. Hello.
Hello.
I didn't think I'd be on today because I did it wrong, basically.
Well, as I was saying earlier, the flat colors was really just a request to not try to render things in Paint. And so we're talking about like, hey, what does it mean to be inking versus drawing digitally? I think that this is an excellent example of digital pencil. What program are you using? What tools are you using to get this result?
I had Krita and I used the brush called Pencil 2.
Okay,
which
great.
is-
So
I
the
think it's
Krita
got
default pencil
some-
tool looks fucking great.
Yeah. I think it's got some opacity based on pressure and some like random sizing inside it, which affects the texture, but yeah.
Okay. And yeah, you spent
I
a
like
lot
the
of time
Krita brushes
building
in
up.
general.
You built up some
Sorry.
you built up a lot of texture over the course of this. Like I can see the way that your lines are sort of running along the contours of where the feathers are headed, and then on the fish also your hatching is running along the contours of the sides of the fish, while then building up these like darker marks on top of it. I think it looks really great. This is the sort of drawing that I think looks really good when you add flat color to it.
I did put in some flat color. I didn't really. I put something down. It didn't look great, and then I stopped. Basically, I probably could have pushed it further to see what I could get from it. But
Yeah, I just set a layer to multiply, and I'm just throwing it on top here, just for my own selfish curiosity. It's like once you have a lot of the form built up in pencil like this, I feel like
yeah, there's not much more to do after that.
you don't really have to do a lot. Like I think just painting it, like picking a single color, something that's probably even like lower contrast than what's really in the reference, and then you can multiply it over the top, or you could put it underneath and set your lines to multiply, and probably get like a nice simple, have it feel like it's in color. I think you just having a flat for the whole silhouette still brings it off the background a bit and makes a case for just like a little bit of color. But even without it, I think that, just bringing it off the background a little bit so it's not just black on white adds a little bit of volume to it.
Sorry, what do you mean by that? Can you repeat?
Oh,
that?
just you having the gradient in the background and then having like different value for like the silhouette of the figure here.
You think that's not working, is it?
No, I think it is working. I think it's
Oh, okay,
I think it's
sorry.
adding something to it, and then, I think even if you were to go very low contrast with it, I think that adding just a little bit of flats to a drawing like this tends to bring out a bit of extra volume for it, and I think it makes it a little bit more readable. Sometimes I find that I have a hard time like really digesting what I'm looking at when I see just a pure black and white pencil drawing. That I always
Yeah,
like the
there's not
aesthetic
much,
of it, but the readability of it I always feel like is a little bit lower than when there's just a smidge of color
I
added in.
agree. I felt if I tried to go darker in the background, it would have separated the two elements better. But then I think it was distracting too much from the lines themselves. So maybe the lines needed to be darker, or as you're saying, color.
But yeah. I thought the pencil drawing looked really great this week. Thought it looks good.
Oh, thanks very much. I enjoyed it. I tried to incorporate that a bit more into my painting going forward if I can.
Yeah, I mean,
that
if this
patience
is
with
what it looks
using a
like
smaller brush.
when you're just doing an easy study, I'd be curious how much your drawing could inform your painting.
Yeah. I usually start with drawing and then I move into painting, but then I find that there's not as much in the drawing as I thought there was, so maybe I need to spend more time in the drawing.
I'm going to turn you up
Get
just a
more
little
detail.
bit.
Sorry, my mic is something. I don't know what my mic is.
It's okay. Yeah, everyone's levels are always different when we're doing Discord. The interface is going crazy on me. Okay. All right. Yeah, I don't have a lot of really big critique for you here. I think that you did an excellent job, and I just want to highlight your work a little bit and talk about the way in which we had seen some really good examples of inking, and then I really like this kind of digital drawing. I always thought it looks really appealing, and it's easy to kind of add a little bit of something to dress it up. And it's it's something I think that people overlook because we're always worried about trying to do these epic magic card paintings, but I think there's a lot of room for something that looks like this in what we're doing here.
Thanks very much. Yeah, I want to try to incorporate the texture I got from the pencil into the paintings to see if I can find a nice middle ground.
Yeah, like one of my friends, Sean Andrew Murray, he does pencil with like color washes digitally as his main thing. I guess.
Yeah, I've tried washes. They never seem to work out for me. I don't know what. Maybe they do look good, and I just don't have an eye for it. But something I can try. But yeah.
The trick is usually to start with a wash underneath, and then you do another treatment of paint over the top without wiping out all the lines. And it's the balance of doing the two, one underneath and one over the top, that like ends up allowing you to have that greater sense of control. I think something else that Sean does too is that he's kind of some of the drawing that's happening here is actually just additional painting marks that are being drawn over the top of the line art. So even if you have a drawing already there, kind of doing another drawing with a
Smaller brush.
Yeah, just like if you were to be working in acrylic and you just have very little water and you're just sort of painting in line art with a brush over the top and just treating it like it's a drawing being done with a paintbrush as a top layer, I think is a totally viable way of doing it. And it's very easy to accomplish that digitally.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's one of my favorite artists. He also lives down the street from me, which is good for me.
I think you had him on here before, didn't you?
Yeah, we're working on a class for Huckleberry. So he's got a class in the works with us too. But yeah, if you ever wanted to push on the drawing thing, I think he's an excellent point of reference for doing this sort of thing, because you can see how much the texture of the drawing ends up contributing to the final painting. And you just, and he still works on Magic the Gathering all the time. And so it's like, it's still possible to get all the work on all the big fantasy properties. And he works on films and, in all the industries and stuff. So it's like, it's totally viable to treat this as a mixed media project where the pencils still have a place in the final piece, if it's something that feels very natural for you. And, you're somebody who I think, you've got an affinity for this thing. So I wouldn't always paint over your pencil drawings. I think they look great.
Thanks very much. I'll definitely keep it in mind.
All right, great. Okay, so that's it for the class this week. Thanks, Sean, for showing your work again. I'm going to share the assignment one more time. So this was this is last week's assignment. The assignment for this week is to draw some happy little trees using this reference image. Oftentimes, I find myself yelling at people that when they are drawing landscapes, that they are not putting enough energy in. And when I think about painting trees, I think about trees as though they are an explosion of foliage, an explosion of leaves, that there is a kinetic motion to them, that they're not just sitting there on the end of a stiff branch, that they are exploding outwards like an explosion caught in time. And so I want to try to emphasize that for this week's assignment by starting with a photo reference of an explosion, and I want you to draw this as a scene of greenery. There should be, maybe you have some sky or some clouds peeking out over the top over here. Yeah, turn these into some happy little trees. And I think that you could take any, for this assignment, I've got this reference, but for going forwards, I just want you to think about this idea of this kinetic motion of things like greenery, like the natural world as being, leaping into existence like this, to capture it in a frame like this. So I think that's going to be really fun, honestly. I love drawing greenery, and so this is the sort of thing that is exciting for me. I hope you guys like it too. Thanks everyone who did the work this week. It's great having you here all the time. If you want to participate in the homework, just go ahead and drop into the Discord and drop it in the Moorbacher homework channel. I'm going to link that really fast. Wait. There we go. Dustin's got it. That's the Homework Pete channel. Just drop it in there before we go live next week, Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern, and you'll have a shot at getting your work reviewed at the very least. I hope that you'll learn something. Thanks, guys. As always, it's great seeing you around. I'll see you back here next week. Goodbye.